I haven't had to talk this much in a while. I'm doing it for you guys. Alrighty guys, welcome back to the final video that I'm filming today. Obviously not the final one in my Twisted Tales series recap review thingy before I do my next ranking, because there'll be a lot of them. And I think I have got through not even half for the reviews. I've read them all. Everything up there has been read, including this bad boy, the Anthology, which we're going to talk about today. So for the Anthology, I'm just going to very quickly go through, like super briefly, touch on all the little stories in here. There's, well, I count this and I forget every time. I want to say 14. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. There are 16 short stories in here, and I'm going to tell you exactly, in like 3 sentences or slightly more, how I felt about them. Thankfully, with an anthology, there is not really a blurb situation because all the stories are a little bit different. And there are, I guess, universes or characters in here that have already been written about in other Twisted Tale books. And maybe even in future Twisted Tale books. I'm just saying, some of these would be really good. So they're just slightly different twists. And for the most part, I really liked these. There was only a couple duds where that whole like one-liner they do really did not line up with my expectations. If you were there in the live stream when I had to read it, you know. So let's jump into it. So the first story in here, after the foreword, which this was edited by Elizabeth Lim, who is one of the core 3. I think now there's like a core 4 authors for the Twisted Tales, but she's one of the core 3. She is great. I love all of her stories. So this was edited by Elizabeth Lim. I did find a couple typos, but I'm not going to blame her because editing is hard, okay? Don't blame people for typos when there's like a chunk. Look at that chunk of words. That's so big. That is literally like the go the distance of conceal, don't feel put together. It's a chunk. Anywho, so the first story is Cast Out by Olivia Blackburn, with the premise being, what if Snow White learned magic? Snow White is not one of my favorite princesses. We'll just be up straight and honest, up straight. I make up words. Welcome to my channel. But anywho, Snow White is not one of my favorite princesses, and especially after her characterization in Mirror Mirror, which was by Jen Kalanita. It was a rough time. It was a rough time, right? I wasn't really excited to start out with Snow White. Let's just say that. However, Blackburn's characterization of Snow White maintained that sort of doughy innocence, but it gave her some teeth. So the story is more or less starting before Snow White leaves the Evil Queen's castle. And we see her, she's doing all her chores and scrubbing, and she passes the queen's room with the mirror in it and is kind of drawn in. Through that interaction, she gets to learn a little bit of magic. And she practices it by herself in her little cellar room. And eventually she gets it. And then she goes to learn a little bit more magic. And she practices. So she's secretly building up some skills because she knows the evil queen ain't good. Then we get to where the huntsman is told to take Snow White out. Snow White escapes and goes into the woods to the dwarf's cottage. At this point, she's learned a couple spells, but she's really not like confident that she can do things. So we're like baby magician, okay? Baby magician Snow White. The morning after her first night at the cottage, where all the dwarves go out to work, and she's cleaning up the house and everything, and the old lady approaches her with the apple. Snow White has gained enough schnuff to protect herself, and though she failed a couple times, she was able to use the magic that she learned against the queen and like win. Yeah, it was good. I was like, where was this Snow White in Mirror Mirror? Where was this Snow White in any of the adaptations? Like, that was, I wanted more of Blackbird's Snow White because, I mean, yeah, the short story kind of did it all, but I could have read a lot more of that. It was very well written. Again, you had a character grow through their weaknesses and learn something new that was, at least in my knowledge, never done before. So I really, really liked Snow White in Blackbird's edition for Cast Out. The next one, A First Mission by Elizabeth Lim herself. This one was another Mulan story, with the premise being, what if Mulan became the Emperor's advisor? This was middle for me. It wasn't poorly written. I think it was just not an interesting part to do. I don't know. After the events of both Reflection and like the Mulan movie, where Mulan is offered the chance to become an advisor, but obviously the rest of the advisors, which are just old judgy men, were like, you can't have a woman on the council. So as part of her first mission, she's given something super difficult, which is to go up to this other province and retrieve the Emperor's silkworms and bring them back safely. So she's kind of also operating in a military way. She gets to go with Shang. Yay. Would have loved to see more of them, the story more around them. I think that's just because it is a really great pairing. It didn't feel like a whole complete story, which a couple of these are more or less scenes. I mean, this one definitely had like sort of a beginning and an ending to it, but for me, it was like, okay, she did this mission, she managed to pull it off, and then the advisors are kind of like, you're not that bad, and even Shifu was, like, he had gone with them and, like, I think he had gotten injured, but they finished their mission and saved him and, like, they did all the things, right? So he was like, well, I can't shoot you down now, I guess you have merit kind of situation. And I was like, okay, well, it either needed to be a bit longer, more of a struggle with other factors to it, or it was just kind of a scene that was like, I wasn't totally interested in it, but that's not a fault to the writing so much as probably not the best format, I guess. I don't know. It didn't feel like it should have been a short story to me. On to the next one. We have Et Voilà by Liz Braswell. Yes, my lady. Which is, what if Remy from Ratatouille had met Colette first? So rather than a linguini, Mr. Curly Hair dude, if he had met Colette. And this story was super cute. Okay, so Ratatouille is already good. This alternate version of Ratatouille was super cute and a lot of fun because, Remy's out in the alley scrounging through the garbage for food, but he's like selecting certain things to pair up because he is, all these magical tastes that he makes up. And Colette's like out there on her break. She sees him and she's like, oh, it's just a dirty rat. And then she's like, but he's grabbing, I don't know, was it like a certain type of cheese and a piece of fish? So she was like curious about it. And so she started bringing him like better ingredients and he would make stuff out of it. And then they had like a back alley little restaurant going on behind the restaurant. Of course, then they're found out and they kind of do the whole reveal where like, he's a rat, but he's special and clean. Cause like, oh yeah, he like washed his hands and she was like, okay, thinking I'm going crazy kind of talking and associating with a rat, but it's better than my job. Cause she was not given the position to move up because she was a lady. So we have quite a few of those. But it was super cute. Like, I think as a short story, it did work really well because we got them meeting up to their success in the end of it. But I could also see that as a slightly longer format, and I think it would still work. Did very much enjoy Et Voilà. The next one, The Envelope by Jen Kalanita. Now, before we assume things, I will tell you this might have been my top 3 in the anthology. So Jen Kalanita did me some good. But also it's a short story that had a lot of questions, open-ended questions at the end that maybe would fall into my like, but the ending, girl, come on. However, let me tell you about this. Obviously, when I saw like the listings of it, I didn't see the glass slipper there, but I read What If Anastasia, we're just going to pronounce things today, okay? Had a change of heart. Myself went You mean they got Anastasia as in the one that Fox made, but now she's a Disney princess because Disney bought Anastasia? And I was like, this is the one I want to read because she's so underrated and blah, blah, blah. No, it's Anastasia as in Cinderella's stepsister. Still, it turned out to be one of my favorite stories. So after the events of Cinderella, where she gets to marry the prince and everything, and the stepsisters are left with their mom, Anastasia becomes like the next house slave, for lack of a better word. So she picks up on all of Cinderella's chores because she's forced. And she's like, I don't understand how Cinderella did all this. It's like she starts really empathizing with Cinderella's past position. They had totally isolated themselves from society. Like they won't go to, even when they're invited to the royal stuff, they won't go because they just feel ashamed and whatnot. So Anastasia's been locked up for a while and she is just like wilting. And then a knock on the door has this young man bring an envelope, which is like the invitation to Cinderella's, was it the wedding? It might have been the wedding. What is this guy's name? Pause. Benoit. Benoit. Okay, we need more Benoit. So Benoit brings the envelope, and at first Anastasia's like, oh, well, we can't go. And then she kind of is thinking about it. She's like, well, I kind of want to go. And like, the guy was nice. But her mother and sister are obviously essentially do the same thing they did to Cinderella, where they like, you can't go, and try to like run her life. On the premise of running an errand, Anastasia and Benoit actually like go out to a different part of the countryside. And it's to find out more information about Cinderella's dad. So her stepdad. Yeah. There was another letter, I believe, from the dad to the daughters that she had found. And that's what really kind of triggered her to be like, well, I want to know more. I don't want to just like wilt here in the shadows of this house. So because Benoit was like the only guy she had talked to outside of the house, she kind of grabbed his help. And he was more than happy to help. By the way, he has 2 different colored eyes, and I thought that was going to be significant. We don't know. The story ended before we got to find out. But they go pretty much like on a nice little date out to the countryside, and it's super cute and wholesome. And if you've seen Cinderella 3, where they do like the 3 vignettes, and you have Anastasia with the baker, the bread maker kid boy, and you think that's cute, like this is that feeling, but this is like, I want more. Like, give me more of Anastasia and Benoit, because the girl deserves better, okay? Of the sisters, she deserves better. Just saying. So I really like the story. It gave me the feels. It made me happy, and I wanted more. So top, if not at least top 3 of the short stories. But I talked about that one too long, so let's go on. Read it. You'll like it. It's cute. Oh, and then we quickly hit rock bottom. The next story is A New Dawn by Farah Roshan, with the premise, what if Mufasa gave up his throne? Now, for those who don't know me, and for those who do but aren't aware, Lion King is bae, okay? Lion King has been my movie. I used to be able to quote the entire thing. Now I'm a little I just need to rewatch it, okay? I had very high expectations because when Twisted Tales started coming out, I was like, ooh, I have a great idea for a Lion King one, and I should totally write it because I love Lion King. I haven't wrote it, so don't worry about it. But when Lion King popped up in this, I'm like, I really want to see this done, because up to this short story, with the exception of, guess, like side characters and Remy, all of the characters, especially the main characters within the Twisted Tales, have been human. Like even in the Princess and the Frog retelling, they never turned into frogs. Disappointing. And we didn't have like Louie or Ray. It was, what are you doing? Seeing that these were actually lions doing lion things was promising. The character voices were, for me, totally off. Totally wrong. Like, I don't know if the story was forced, because with the premise of what if Mufasa never, if he gave up his throne. So eventually he has survived the stampede, but he was so injured that Simba had to step up sooner than he was ready. And Mufasa essentially became like what do they call it when they're like hovering? Is it a hover? A satellite ruler? Something like, he would essentially dictate things that Simba did, and like essentially he was still ruling even though he made Simba the ruler. And they had only briefly banned Scar, and then Mufasa said he could come back, which is the stupidest thing ever, because it's like, you literally know he tried to kill you. Lo and behold, Scar's at it again and like ambushes them with a whole other pride of lions. And I was just like, Mufasa, you making dumb plays. Because of that, like, Simba, like, I could understand Simba's broodiness, because like, if he's not going to trust me, why am I doing this? Maybe I should leave. It's not the story I would have gone with. Maybe that's why I'm disappointed. I had a different story in mind that did not involve, oh yeah, Scar, yeah, we're going to forgive him because he's family. No! He tried to kill you. Everybody knows he tried to kill you. That was probably the most frustrating part. So we're just not going to talk about it anymore. Disappointed! On to the next one, which was Rattle the Stars by M.K. England. This one, rather than being like a true short story, was really just like a scene redone with a bit of a twist in it. For those who have seen Treasure Planet, A, excited that there was a Treasure Planet one in here, but B, kind of disappointed that it wasn't a short story and it was just a scene. It's starting around the scene on the ship where Jim jumped into the barrel after Morph, and he overhears the pirates' plans, but in this case he like kind of steps out and makes himself known and plays them, but then also essentially kind of joins up with them. Like, he makes the plan for them to take over the ship but get the admiral. I'm sorry, I accept punishment for not remembering their names. It's gonna come to me. But essentially his friends off the ship safely so that they can continue on to Treasure Planet and get the gold. That's basically the premise of it. It's just that scene a little bit differently, so it's not a full-on story. And because of that, like, a lot of it was a carbon copy of the movie, with the exception of Jim's different choice. So it felt true to the original. It wasn't a lot. It wasn't a lot different. It was just a nice little scene. So maybe they'll give me a full story eventually. Next one, A Royal Game of Chess by Liz Braswell. And the premise is, what if history wasn't quite right about the legend of Robin Hood? To put it simply, the twist in this is that Maid Marian is Robin Hood, and the other male fox, I think we just call Red, is like a sidekick accomplice, but she's really Robin Hood and the one like who's proficient at archery and everything. So pretty much just put her in Robin Hood's role. There is a little bit of like push and pull with Prince John, where he tries to set a trap, and then Maid Marian as Robin Hood thinks she's overcome the trap because he's supposed to be out of the castle, so they're going to steal from it, but he actually reverse trapped. That's why it's like the whole chess game of like moving pieces. The biggest premise of it all is just they switched roles. So it was pretty good. I did like that it kept, once again, the anthropomorphic characters in the roles rather than making them human versions. So we did stay true to the movie and true to the characters. It was a lot of fun. As it is, I don't see where it could really go in a longer format. So I think the short story worked out pretty well, because you kind of got the reveal that Maid Marian was actually Robin Hood, then the struggle with Prince John, and then overcoming it, and everyone's happy. So it was good. I don't have much to say about it. I think I'm also just thirsty. So thirsty. Hydrate. Iris, I'm hydrating for you. All right, we got about halfway to go. The next one is The Secret Exchange by Elizabeth Lim, with the premise of what if Eric met Ariel after she rescued him. We already did have Part of Your World by Braswell as the twist tale for Little Mermaid, which was great. I did like that one. The short story, also great. After Ariel rescues Eric from his shipwreck, instead of like him vaguely seeing her and then her disappearing, he wakes up enough to like call her out, and they make contact, and then they continue to make contact, and they have like these mini little dates with each other where she brings stuff from the sea to show off and he brings stuff from the land, and they form a relationship which is missing in the movie. Honestly, the live action might have done the relationship building a smidge better. Super cute story. The best part about it was just having the character interactions as they formed that relationship and got to know each other. We did, of course, have Ursula's dastardly plans come in and try to ruin it. I believe, did the ending work out the same in there? I think it did. I'm decently sure it went the same route of giant Ursula stabbed with a ship situation. Yeah, they defeated Ursula together. So that part is pretty much the same, but the building of it was different. So it was nice. Next was Dust to Dust by Mikael Ostow. What if Tinkerbell was working for Captain Hook? Digging it up in my brain, what happened?
Silent scan.
So if I remember correctly, this is one that I wanted to be longer just because there was a lot of interesting snippets that we went through. We did have a different Straight On Till Morning as our other Peter Pan retelling, which was following Wendy and sort of Wendy and Tink's relationship. This was more so focused on Tink. I didn't not like it. I don't remember being in love with it, and I guess this is the one where a lot of things are just, was it this version? Was it that version? Was it a different? I have a couple Peter Pan things going on in my head. I want to say that Tink had teamed up with Captain Hook relatively early on in the whole, like, trying to sabotage Peter and everything. Oh, okay. So Tink, with the fairies, there was like a certain rule where she could not create or control a certain magic, and she got a snippet of it and they more or less banished her. So in doing that is when she fled to Neverland and met up with Hook, and he's like, why not use your magic the way you want to? So he was kind of manipulating her in that way, and they worked together. But then they do kind of recruit the fairies from the fairyland to come, is it Never After? To come and like stop Hook. Yeah, stop Hook from like capturing Peter and the darling children. So, and it's kind of told in a story, not a tall tale, like a story version where like Tink recaps at the end of like, and you could hear Hook's shrieks as he fled, and Peter, like maybe he grew up or something. And I'm just gonna be honest, and I apologize because I don't remember the nitty gritties of this story. It did not stand out, I guess, which is unfortunate because I did enjoy reading. And I just don't remember. Okay, we got a few more. I hear a puppy crying for me. Next one is Gonna Take You There by Farah Roshan again. Farah Roshan wrote the Almost There full novel for the Twisted Tales, which I did enjoy. Can we wait? 2 minutes? 5 minutes? Probably more like 10 minutes. Oh, come here. I'll pet you while we talk. Okay. With this premise for the short story being, what if Naveen had to get home to Maldonia? It was a nice little story. I wish this one was longer in terms of the overall character growth and everything, because rather than going through the whole Mardi Gras turning into a frog thing, Tiana doesn't even make it that far because Prince Naveen's like, I need to get home to my father. I got a letter, he was sick. And there was like, their ship wasn't leaving, but they had to travel to a few towns over to catch a ship in time. So we had some building relationships, very minimal because this is like took place over the course of a day. But we did get to have some nice conversations between them as they like hopped a train and didn't steal a car, but they took a car part of the way and it broke down, and they think they got a ride at another point. Only to find out, I'm going to snap my book close for this, only to find out that his like assistant dude he essentially fired right before he got the letter or right after and read it, tracked them down to where they ended up to get on the ship right before Naveen was getting on the ship to be like, oh, you read the wrong letter. That was for a different prince. I did not like that. I typically don't like it when it's like, oh, how convenient. Or ironic, I guess. How ironic that I read the thing for the wrong prince and had a heart attack and had to just flee and spend this whole day escaping to try to get back home, only because the rest of the story I liked. That final 2 pages where that was revealed was quite disappointing. The next one we had was Fates 3 by Jen Kalanita, and this is a brave twisted tale short story with the three brothers, okay? You can't see it right there, but here it is. Oh, this is... You're falling. Ow, dog. Bravely by Maggie Stiefvater is fantastic. Hi, I know I gotta pet you with that hand. Hold on, I gotta switch hands. Switch hands with the books. Okay, gotta put things back. Bravely was fantastic. I really, really loved getting to see more of Merida's brothers. To have a whole short story about them was fantastic too, because they had gone out into the woods. The premise was, what if the triplets visited the witch? So they go out to the woods to try and fix. They made a boo-boo, a royal boo-boo, when they had guests over, and they go out to essentially follow the same path that Merida did, where they kind of get things fixed by the witch. They're at odds with each other. They're all starting to go in different directions, and the witch, through her like semi-visions, shows them what could happen if they were separated and like if they did what they wanted to do rather than work together. And that of course brings them together. They don't need magic to fix things. They like just own up to their mistakes and work together and fix it. Super fun. There's another Fate Be Changed is coming out this year. Did it already come out? It might have already come out. That is a brave twisted tale. So I'm really excited about that one, because between this short story and Bravely, we are hitting the nail on the head, and I'm very much enjoying it. Another one where Kalanita did so nice. So nice. The next one is A Dragon in the Snow by Christina Perez. With the premise being, what if Madame Mim and Merlin went to school together? A, excited because it's Sword in the Stone, which is another underrated thing. Y'all should go watch it just because. B, they went to school together, so we had the potential of... Actually, we did. They sort of did build a romance, which in the short story, it wasn't enough. This one needed to be... Atreyu, come here. This one needed to be a full-on novel, which is why I really want to see where the Set in Stone Twisted Tale goes, which I don't think is about Merlin and Madame Mim. But this was such a fun short story looking at their differences in magic, and so this gives us that new world magic system. It builds up a very cute little relationship, and then of course we knew it couldn't stay blissful forever, because they end up in a it's a competition tournament situation where they do end up doing kind of the transformation thing against each other like they do in the movie. And because of their connection, Mim loses because they form such a strong bond that Merlin could influence Mim's magic. And that's why she lost, which is why she got upset, which is why they turned into a bickering old couple that can't get along. Otherwise, the rest of the story was super fun, and I want more. I will take more, please. Christina Perez, please, more, please. I'm trying to go a little bit faster because the puppies are rushing me. I better show you off because nobody knows who I'm talking about. Here's my dog. Nope, I can't bend it down that way. There's my dog. There's the whiny boy who wants to do stuff. Hi, yeah. And there's his sister who's happy to just sleep because they've been outside all day. And now I gotta reset the camera. Okay, we have a few more to go. The Journey Home by Farah Roshan is the next short story in the book, with the premise, what if Belle had to take her father's place at the fair? Short story of it is, I didn't care for this adaptation. When something is from something iconic like Beauty and the Beast, and there's no Beast, why does it matter that it's Belle? This, I guess, it could be seen as a scene in a potentially larger story where Belle is taking her father's contraption through the woods, gets stuck, but overcomes it without help from Gaston, by the way. And then we're in a society where olden times and all these male inventors are like, there's a woman there. Nah. You know, it's still her father's invention, but she gains, I guess, some notoriety or at least respect for having brought it out. It's a decent length of a short story, but it's really, she goes to take the invention, she struggles, she gets there. It was a good invention. Her father is successful. There was no magic in it for me. That's all I'm saying. All right, the next one is Call It a Hunch by Jen Kalanita. So she wrote quite a few of these short. This one being, what if Hercules' first day as God didn't go as planned? Of the ones so far that she wrote as short stories, this one for me didn't hit because this tells me it's about Hercules' first day, whereas the majority of the story was Meg's also first day. So rather than focusing on Hercules, Meg starts investigating the disappearing Athena statues around the different cities. And it turns out it was like Hermes playing a trick the whole time and she figured it out. I mean, I don't mind a detective story, but it's not what I was expecting. Especially because, like I said, it says what it's talking about Hercules in my little one-liner, but it's really about Meg solving a mystery of the missing statues, which kind of tied in at the end, but it felt like maybe a chapter in something bigger. It probably let me down more so because I was like, well, what? Where's the actual story on Hercules? The next one, we have two more, is The Reluctant Prince by Liz Braswell. And this was a Bambi twisted tale, with them being deer and skunk and bunny. So the premise for this story was, what if Bambi didn't want to be the next great prince of the forest? And it's just a very simple, very cute little, kind of like growing up coming of age struggle where, you know, he finds out he's gonna be the next prince and trying to understand like what that means to be the great prince, because his father's never really there. So he thinks it's just like ended up being stoic, and like, he doesn't want to become his father essentially because he doesn't really know what his father is doing and what the role is. But as he is talking to the different forest creatures, he learns about it and eventually is like more accepting of his role. So very simple. Again, I just appreciate that they're keeping the animals as animals, and I really liked it. It was really done well, Braswell. Braswell. Oh, and the last one in this anthology. I can't because I gotta pet the dog. The last one in the anthology is The Rose and the Thorns by Elizabeth Lim herself. With the premise, what if Aurora knew the truth about her curse? This one as well, I would have loved to see in a longer format, because we have, not only does Aurora know about her curse, and she was trained to defend herself while growing up in the palace, even though she could never leave. The fairies were always there protecting her. She was trained. She was aware. She also knew Prince Philip from a younger age. So they had, over time, built that relationship and grown up together and became buddy-buddy. So when it came to like her 16th birthday, where they're like, we have to keep you safe by the night. And she's like, screw that. I'm going to take things into my own hands, and instead of waiting for Maleficent to find me, I'm going to go find her and end the curse, which is not generally a great idea. If you go, she ain't that strong. So that naive teenager situation, but the prince goes with her. They essentially do face off against Maleficent and are able to lift the curse actively, which is really, really nice. The prince and the princess actually grow up knowing each other and just being friends, like friends first, for surezies. Because while it was kind of like they did have feelings for each other, but it was very low key and very just simple, it felt stronger because it's like they got each other's back. They're best friends. It was great. Ended on a super strong note with that story. Overall, the anthology was fantastic. Like I said, there was a few duds for myself, and just, you know, everybody has a different opinion, but those few were just not what I expected. And then there were ones that I didn't know what to expect, like the Anastasia one, that were so awesome that I want more. I want more of Anastasia. I want more of Blackburn Snow White. Who else did we like? We liked the Colette story, but that felt wrapped up. Give Anastasia more love, okay? And fix Mufasa. Fates 3. Oh, yes, I gotta read Fate Be Changed. I gotta do it. So, we're gonna set this back on the shelf where it belongs. And that wraps up my day of filming reviews, finally. Which you guys, again, probably saw them all separately since I have to edit and that takes a while. But we are caught up with what I have reread or read anew with the anthology. I think I have to still review What Once Was Mine Unbirthday, so this is love, straight on till morning. Mirror, mirror, part of your world. And then Once Upon a Dream and As Old as Time. So 1, 2, 3, 7, 8. 8? I think I have 8 more to do their individual reviews and rereads. So let me know which one you guys want to see next in the comments below. Thank you again for watching. Hopefully this was semi-interesting. I know me just sitting in front of the camera talking and failing to talk sometimes is not the most interesting thing in the world. But I appreciate you hanging out, and I hope, if nothing else, maybe you have some interest in picking up a Twisted Tales book. I do enjoy them, but I'm also a Disney girl, so... you know. Anywho, I'm going to go take care of my dogs. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks again, and have a good night.